Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio this morning. We have a lot to cover. Of course, tonight is the big debate between Vance and Walz. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to be on a press call with the Trump campaign to figure out a little bit about where their mind is at this morning. I'm going to tell you about that later on. First off, we had a comment from a viewer this morning saying, "Good morning, Frank. Good morning. When does early voting begin in Steuben County?" Great question. So it actually does not begin until October the 26th, which is also the last day you can register. So October 26th is early voting, and then it runs all the way through November 3rd. And the time is 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. from the 26th to November 3rd. And the locations are the Steuben County Board of Elections, the Southeast Steuben County Library, and Hornell Arts Center in Hornell. So that is a quick update. And we are going to have a special that's coming out very soon here on Big Fox that'll give you all the information you need to know about voting so you are prepared either for early voting or voting on November the 5th. All right. First off, on a sad note, Pete Rose has passed away at the age of 83. Baseball legend Pete Rose died yesterday, according to his representatives. The 17-time All-Star owned numerous MLB records during his playing career that spanned 24 years and included time with the Reds, Phillies, and Expos. News of Rose's passing came late yesterday. His agent, Ryan Fitterman, said that the MLB great's family is asking for privacy at this time. Details about Rose's passing are limited, but ABC News reported that Rose had been found by a family member and the scene is being examined. There were no signs of foul play. Pete Rose passing away at the age of 83. Now, also today, being the 1st of October, marks the first president to turn 100. Yes, Jimmy Carter turns 100 today. Former Democrat President Carter turns 100 years old on Tuesday today, earning the distinction of being the first president to ever live for an entire century. Now, he has been in hospice since, I believe, February, of last year. Now, Carter, the nation's 39th president, has been a man of several firsts. He was the first U.S. president to be born in a hospital, was the first Naval Academy graduate to become president, and he was the first president to make a formal state visit to sub-Saharan Africa, among other firsts. Now, Carter is the first U.S. president in history to make it to 100 years old. Carter remains under home hospice care in his hometown of Plains, Georgia, where he has lived since the culmination of his presidency back in 1981. This upcoming February marks 2 years in hospice for the former president, who has outlived his wife, Rosalind. She passed away, if you recall, last year at the age of 96. Jill Stuckey, a family friend of the Carters for more than 30 years, said, "It's funny President Carter has accomplished so much and rarely ever fails. But the one thing that he's not been good at is hospice." Jeez. He keeps living, and we're so thrilled about that fact. So if he was not to be good at anything, we're glad it's hospice. He and Mrs. Carter were concerned about living as long as they possibly could, being as healthy as they possibly could, so they could help as many people as they possibly could, Stuckey said. They have eaten right every single meal. They have exercised every single day. They are just relentless in taking care of themselves so they can live as long as they possibly can to take care of others. And that's what President Carter is proving today, that all those things make a difference. Now, there are going to be some celebrations in Plains, Georgia for this 100th birthday celebration. We celebrate peanut harvest here in Plains, and it happens to coincide with President Carter's birthday every year, so we kind of combine them. She also indicated that Tuesday, on Carter's birthday, several other events commemorating his birthday will take place in Plains, including a naturalization ceremony for 100 new citizens at Plains High School, where Jimmy and Rosalind attended. All right, so celebrating 100 years old today, former president Jimmy Carter. All right, as a big story that we talked about extensively yesterday and worth mentioning, obviously this morning, yes, the dock workers are on strike as of midnight. Dock workers at ports from Maine to Texas have gone on strike. which, of course, supply chain issues. We've talked about this. It could cause shortages of goods if it goes on more than a few weeks. The contract between the ports and about 45,000 members of the International Longshoremen's Association expired at midnight. And even though progress was reported in talks yesterday, the workers went on strike. The strike affects 36 ports and the first by the union since 1977. They began picketing at the port in Philadelphia shortly after midnight, walking in a circle at a rail crossing outside the port and chanting "No work without a fair contract." The union had message boards on the side of a truck reading "Automation hurts families." The U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents the port, said Monday evening that both sides had moved off their previous wage offers, but when picket lines went up after midnight, it was apparent that no deal had been reached. The union's opening offer in the talks was a 77% pay raise over the next 6 years, saying that it was necessary due to inflation. So you can look at this as, even though President Biden and Harris aren't stepping in, even though they could, to stop the strike, you could look at the inflation issue coming directly from the Biden-Harris administration. ILA members make a base salary of about $81,000 per year, but some can pull in over $200,000 annually with large amounts of overtime. But Monday evening, the Alliance said it had increased its offer to 50% raises over 6 years, and it pledged to keep limits on automation in place from the old contract. The union wants a complete ban on automation. It wasn't clear just how far apart both sides were. Well, it seems like kind of a difference if one wants some and one wants absolutely zero. But we are hoping that this could allow us to fully resume collective bargaining around the other outstanding issues in an effort to reach an agreement, the Alliance statement said. The union didn't answer requests for comments about the talks yesterday night, but said earlier in the day that the ports had refused demands for a fair contract and that the Alliance seemed intent on a strike. The two sides had not held formal negotiations since June. So obviously this is going to have many major implications when it comes to the supply chain, goods, saying that depending on how long this goes, you could start to see shortages in goods at grocery stores, in stores in general. Now, one thing they did say is it shouldn't impact Christmas because most of the supplies for Christmas, artificial trees and the like, have already shipped. The strike will likely have an almost immediate impact on supplies of perishable imports like bananas, for example. The ports affected by the strike handle 3.8 million metric tons of bananas each year, or 75% of the nation's supply, according to American Farm Bureau Federation. It could also snarl exports from East Coast ports and create traffic jams at ports on the West Coast where workers are represented by a different union. Railroads say they can ramp up to carry more freight from the West Coast, but analysts say they can't make up the cargo handed to the East. So there's an update. I know we talked about it yesterday, but breaking news. If you're just waking up, dock workers did go on strike from Maine all the way to Texas. All right. Now, we have a lot of other issues to talk about, and feel free to weigh in. What do you think of tonight's debate? Like I said, I was on a press call. It was weirdly, it was off the record, but I can give you little hints into what the Trump-Vance campaign are looking at, what they see in Walz, what they see in Vance. I'll tell you about that coming up in a little bit. Israel, as an international update, says intense fighting erupted with Hezbollah in South Lebanon. Israel said intense fighting erupted with Hezbollah in South Lebanon after its paratroops and commandos launched raids there ahead of a widely expected ground incursion and after devastating airstrikes against Hezbollah's leadership. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We do have an update on the mayor in New York City, but tying it in with other New York issues, because we had someone asked when early voting begins in Steuben County. It's October 26th. But there's some updates, very interesting updates on that proposition that's going to be on the ballot in November. Yes, it's October 1st, and Election Day is November 5th. So a little over a month, and there's a lot to report on this morning regarding the Trump campaign and the Harris campaign. But also, and I know Biden has been struggling with Israel, wanting them to constantly take part in a ceasefire. But when we come back, we're going to tell you a little bit about where Israel stands, what Netanyahu had to say. Not a ton on international stories because we do want to get to, of course, the vice presidential debate, which airs tonight, live from New York City. Yes, they're going to be in New York City. What are your thoughts? I see that the Harris campaign is trying to present Walz as nervous. He's got the nerves, and he's really... The guy has been in politics 20 years. He's done plenty of debates, and that was one of the points that Trump's camp made yesterday during that press call, that you cannot forget that Walz has been in a lot more debates than Vance. So this idea that there's nerves or he's worried, I think downplaying it, hoping to set the bar very low. And normally the media will allow that to happen. They'll set the bar low for a Harris or a Walz. So keep that in mind when we talk about the coverage. When you see the coverage tonight and then when we talk about it tomorrow, many of the scripts for the reporters already written saying how Walz overcame his nerves and put on a masterful show. You can see it already. But when we come back, we're going to talk international stories, read a couple comments. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Lease a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Limited all-wheel drive featuring power moonroof and heated seats for only $349 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
The time has arrived. Hesselson's annual tent sale is going on now through Sunday. 4 days of huge savings in all departments. Hunting clothing, work and hunting boots, general clothing, socks, swimming pools, hot tubs, and much, much more. If you're looking for unbelievable savings and great deals, Hesselson's annual tent sale is the place to be. But come in early for the best selection as quantities are limited. With savings like this, now is a perfect time to stock up on all of your holiday shopping and hunting clothing and footwear needs. But for 4 days only, it's Hesselson's huge annual tent sale will end Sunday at 3 p.m. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Great drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99 through this special offer. But wait, this may be your last chance to get Angel View at this low price. There is a strict limit of 2 Angel Views per order while supplies last. Order now.
Call 1-800-869-5346. That's 1-800-869-5346. Or visit getangelview.com. So call 1-800-869-5346 now.
In a few words, Urkel, glasses, nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. A comment from a viewer. Timmy has no chance when debating J.D. Vance. That's a nice rhyme there. I like it. Okay, so as I mentioned, Israel has said that intense fighting erupted with Hezbollah in South Lebanon. Now, it's interesting. Benjamin Netanyahu delivered, I guess you'd say, a not too subtle warning to leadership in Tehran. When Iran is finally free, and that moment will come a lot sooner than people think, everything will be different, he said. Our two ancient peoples, the Jewish people and the Persian people, will finally be at peace. Our two countries, Israel and Iran, will be at peace. He said that Iran's leaders support the rapists and murderers of Hamas and Hezbollah. Iran's tyrants don't care about the future of the Iranian people, and the country deserves better leadership. There are tens of millions of decent and good people with thousands of years of history behind them and a brilliant future ahead of them. Don't let a small group of fanatic theocrats crush your hopes and dreams. You deserve better. Your children deserve better. The entire world deserves better. The people of Iran should know Israel stands with you. May we together know a future of prosperity and peace. Now, CNN begrudgingly reporting that Netanyahu rides a wave of euphoria over assassinations as his political fortunes turn around. On October 7th, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's self-styled image as Mr. Security seemed shattered by the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. The Jewish homeland and its leaders had failed to protect the people. How could he possibly survive? The polls told as much. And then it goes through the history here. The regional confrontations are good for Netanyahu, veteran pollster and analyst Delia Schindlin told CNN. They seem quite clearly to be the contributing factor to his recovery. Israel's aggressive military maneuvers against its enemy have helped restore a sense of agency and strength destroyed by Hamas's October 7th attack. The war in Gaza is popular in Israel, but it brings with it complex questions around long-term occupation relations to the Palestinians, and most importantly for Israelis, the fact that 101 hostages are still being held there. Now, Israel, according to Carolyn Glick, saying Israel ignoring Biden's gripes does the job the UN won't. Beat back Hezbollah. On Monday, it was around 10 p.m. Local time, Israeli ground forces reportedly began crossing the border into Lebanon. Earlier that day, a reporter asked President Biden if he was informed of Israel's plans for a ground operation in Lebanon and whether he was comfortable with them. He said, quote, "I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now." Now, Israelis do not agree with Biden. They view Hezbollah, controlled and funded by Iran, as a mortal threat to their country, and rightfully so, and believe that the only way to dismantle that threat is for Israeli forces to seize control of the Lebanese side of the border, systematically dismantling Hezbollah's missile arsenal and destroying its ground games. For the past 2 decades, the Lebanese side of the border has been manned by the United Nations troops and units from the Lebanese armed forces. Both were charged by the UN Security Council with dismantling Hezbollah. But the UN forces and the Lebanese military, rather than doing the job they were charged to perform, covered for Hezbollah, which is stronger than both of them. The UN turned a blind eye and a deaf ear as Hezbollah amassed an arsenal of 200,000 projectiles capable of laying waste to Israel and deployed an army of 40,000 terrorists to southern Lebanon. Now, basically saying here, and rightfully so, Israel's doing the job the UN won't, and not listening and not bowing to U.S. pressure. If Israel falters, if it wobbles under U.S. pressure and accepts a premature ceasefire, it will remain in mortal danger. The region will be destabilized and the infrastructure of American power in the Middle East will crumble as every Arab state rushes to make deals with Iran and with its allies, China and Russia. It's obvious why Israel needs to win. Its survival and the lives of its 10 million citizens are on the line. What is hard to understand is why the Biden administration refuses to back that existential victory. Even Stephen Collinson at CNN saying that America is looking increasingly powerless as Israel's war expands. How long has Biden been calling for a ceasefire? Netanyahu's government launched the next stage of its onslaught against Hezbollah with the Israel Defense Forces called what they called a limited ground operation into Lebanon. Despite weeks of requests from Washington to restrain and, of course, calls for de-escalation. This came just hours after Biden said we should have a ceasefire now, when asked what he knew about the previous raids into southern Lebanon. "I'm comfortable with them stopping," the president said. His comments only underscored the span between the U.S. and Israeli governments on a day when Netanyahu told Iranians in a broadcast, "There's nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach." Now, yesterday we had the report that the New York Times really praising the Hezbollah leader, if you will, who was killed, who was assassinated. Terror mastermind Hassan Nasrallah is dead at the hands of the heroic IDF. And boy, that made the New York Times upset. If you want to know what we're dealing with when we talk about media rot, per the paper's posthumous piece on the former Hezbollah chief killed in a daring airstrike on the headquarters of his murderous cadre, Nasrallah was a, quote, gifted orator who maintain that there should be one Palestine with equality for Muslims, Jews, and Christians. The piece's headline ran, "Protesters mourn Nasrallah's death around the world." That echoed the Washington Post's equally sickening piece, praising Nasrallah for transforming Hezbollah into a potent regional force and portraying him as a cuddly and beloved religious leader. What's next? Look, we get that the Times and much of the rest of the media have turned deeply anti-Israel, with much of their audience hungry for terror apologies. But Nasrallah was as bad as they get, a bought and paid for murderer of Iran's regional project, a blood-spattered, terror-dealing anti-Semite and Holocaust denier. He spent decades conducting terror operations against Jews in Israel and around the world, all while doing his level best to force Lebanon's political and social life to submit to his own twisted worldview. By lionizing Nasrallah, these U.S. outlets are glossing over the fact that he was widely feared and hated by Muslim Arabs as well. Remember, his terror army served as the shock troops for Bashar al-Assad's Syrian war, and Nasrallah's death saw free Syrians burst into spontaneous celebration. Much of Lebanon cheered too. The Tears for Hassan piece ran without a byline, proof that the New York Times insiders know this effort to paint Nasrallah as a martyred good guy is as specious as it is obscene. That coming from the New York Post. In Dearborn, Michigan, there was a memorial service for, and this is a real serious problem within the Democrat Party, mourning the, quote, perfect Hezbollah chief Nasrallah, and they accused U.S. of terrorism. On Saturday, a memorial service for slain Hezbollah Security General Hassan Nasrallah took place at the Haiti Youth Community Center in Dearborn, Michigan. The event, which was live streamed on YouTube, featured fiery speeches from local religious leaders and activists who praised Nasrallah and Iran's leadership while condemning America. And this is one of the many reasons, and we've talked about it trickling outside of college campuses as well, but there is actually a piece, again, from CNN, surprisingly enough, saying that Jewish students fear the climate of anti-Semitism on campus stoked by the Israel-Hamas war. But the usual concerns about how they will fend for themselves have taken on added dimension for some. As the new academic year begins, many Jewish students and their families are apprehensive about a worsening climate of anti-Semitism on British campuses after Hamas October 7th attacks. Yeah, not just on British campuses, but finally being somewhat reported on. But remember, it was Van Jones who said the Democrat Party now is marbled with this kind of anti-Semitism. So it's something to keep in mind as we get near to Election Day, and when you'll see calls for the ceasefire, and you'll see certain things said or not said by Harrison Walls in reference to Israel trying to protect themselves. Many have speculated that's why Harris didn't go with Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, because of his Jewish faith. But we got to take a break. We've got a lot to cover. I know I'm running through these things kind of quickly. We're not having time to necessarily discuss because we got to get to tonight's vice presidential debate, but there's a lot of stories to get to on the way. So stay with us. Running just a tad bit late. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Hi, I'm Sam. Welcome to Pangea Global Tea House.
Pangea Global Tea House offers comfort foods of the world. Over 50 teas, a sampling of cuisine from over 10 countries. Globally inspired cuisine and striving to give you an ultimate experience. Come in and try the Frankly Delicious Turkey Club Special for just $20, including your beverage of choice. Pangea Global Tea House. Yet a really good tea house bringing you the flavors of the world, offering something for everyone.
What do you do when you're tired tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere, you reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant, so fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-977-4997. That's 1-800-977-4997, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
Broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Just quickly, Russian fighter jet was intercepted near Alaska by NORAD. According to a statement sent to Fox News by NORAD, the, quote, unprofessional air maneuver directed at our NORAD F-16 occurred while it was conducting a routine professional intercept of a Russian Tu-95 aircraft on September the 23rd. NORAD, in a recent statement, noted that an ADIZ begins where sovereign airspace ends and is defined a stretch of international airspace that requires the ready identification of all aircrafts in the interest of national security. All right, let's get to some local-ish issues, but it's all going to tie in because actually, if you want to think about it, tonight's vice presidential debate, New York local. It's in New York City. There's a new poll out from Emerson College that shows in New York, Kamala Harris is at 54%, Trump at 40%. Trump's support has not moved much since May. Instead, the number of undecided voters have shifted from 12% to 3%, breaking in favor of Harris. The May poll found independents breaking for Trump 43 to 33. They now break for Harris 49 to 41. President Biden holds a 43% job approval among New York voters, and we've been talking about this with the potential run by former Governor Andrew Cuomo for mayor of New York City, and people saying, could he actually win? I think if you look at these numbers, the answer is yes. Biden holding a 43% job approval, while 47% disapprove of the job he is doing. This is all New York State specific, folks. 10% are neutral. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul, this is interesting, has a 29% job approval, while 50% disapprove of the job she's doing in office. 20% are neutral. So 29% job approval. Wow. In the U.S. Senate election, 50% support incumbent Democrat Senator Gillibrand, while 33% support Republican Mike Sapercone, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, yes, this article spelled Sapercone wrong. That may be an issue with name recognition there, but 33% supporting Mike Sapercone. The economy is the top issue for New Yorkers at 37%, followed by housing affordability, 15%, immigration at 13%, threats to democracy, 12%, and crime, 11%. A plurality of voters, 45%, say there's more crime in their area than a year ago, where 40% say there's about the same amount of crime, and 15% say there is less crime in the area. So this coming out yesterday from Emerson College. Just as an update, now top Democrats are pushing for Tish James, no friend of former President Trump, pushing for Tish James to run for New York City mayor if Eric Adams is ousted. Party leaders are rallying behind James over fears a special election could send the Big Apple into further turmoil as liberal lawmakers line up for a potential race, and ex-governor Andrew Cuomo eyes a political comeback. People are galvanizing around Tish. There are a lot of people interested in Tish running for mayor, said state Democratic Party leader Jay Jacobs. Jacobs, who's not called for Adams to resign, said party leaders don't have much of an appetite for Cuomo, who resigned in 2021 amid sexual harassment claims and his accusations mounted that his administration botched its COVID-19 response and then covered up the death toll. Cuomo continues to deny that allegation, as you know, at that congressional hearing just recently. You open up a whole can of worms with Cuomo, he said. I don't know if we would want to revisit that. One Democrat insider added that the difference between Cuomo and James is that people actually like Tish. Andrew has more baggage than the current mayor. Oof. Wow. Sending out the message. They don't want our former governor, Andrew Cuomo, running for New York City mayor. Some sources said Governor Hochul's camp reached out to James recently to see if she'd be interested in jumping into a special election if Cuomo were to step in. But James denied she had spoke directly to the governor on the topic. So Tish James could be potentially running for mayor. Now, the New York Post editorial board has this suggestion. Get in the mayor's race for real, Republicans. New Yorkers need a new vision. Where on earth is the GOP in all this? Yes, when you have names like Tish James and Andrew Cuomo being thrown around, where are the Republicans? The basket is beyond depressing. Public advocate Jumaane Williams becomes acting mayor if Adam leaves. He's a cop-bashing socialist who's accused Israel of war crimes over its humane and justified counterattacks against Hamas. Brad Lander, the city comptroller, gets the job if Williams passes. He was already planning to challenge Adams next year. He's a backer of the most insane woke policies on everything from education to COVID to climate and beyond. State Senator Zalnor Miri also is already in the hunt and is cut from the same far-left mold, according to the New York Post. Andrew Cuomo also seems sure to jump in, and others are so awful that they make the disgraced ex-governor who oversaw New York's pandemic-era care home disaster and took a shady Mega Millions book deal look like the responsible choice. The whole situation screams that New York needs a new vision and that the local GOP needs to get in gear and actually fight this one out, putting up a strong contender for the 25 election, or a special if it comes to that. The mayor's race, the mayor of America, as they call it, in New York City, should not simply be a job that Republicans cede to Democrats without a battle, especially when on everything that actually matters to New Yorkers, crime, schools, our migrant crisis, the GOP is dead, bang, center of bullseye correct on the policies. Will it be easy? Absolutely not. Any serious GOP contender for the office faces an uphill battle. Hostile media that will scream white supremacist, disinformation, and extremist, no matter how close to those of the median voter he or she is. The city GOP will be coming from behind with money. Will be coming from behind on money, staff, and turnout capacity. This is the best opportunity an insurgent candidate fighting for safe streets, good schools, an economy on the upswing, and migrant sanity could want. Republicans need to grab it. That's what democracy is all about, choice. And the Big Apple voters desperately need some. Now, kind of tying in with that, a judge has tossed the wrongful death suit against Andrew Cuomo over the order that put COVID patients into nursing homes. A wrongful death lawsuit against Andrew Cuomo over a state directive that forced nursing homes to accept COVID-19 patients was tossed by a judge on Monday, with the ex-governor's camp claiming, quote, justice has prevailed. Eastern District of New York Judge LaShawn Darcy Hall granted a motion to dismiss the suit that was brought against Cuomo and other top aides in 2022 by a man whose father contracted the deadly disease in a Brooklyn nursing home and died. Loved ones of others who died in nursing homes during the pandemic also joined the lawsuit, alleging the same thing. All right. Man, are we moving fast or what? A couple other quick New York State issues, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Yes, tonight is the debate. The last debate, at least on the schedule, the last debate of the presidential cycle. As I had mentioned, if you're just joining us, I was on a special press call with the Trump-Vance campaign, had some pretty big names on it, giving us a kind of a preview of what to expect from tonight's performance, what to expect from not just Vance, but from Walz, with Tom Emmer playing the part of Walz, what he learned about Vance. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. It was kind of off the record, but there's a couple things that have made their ways through other outlets that I think are just worth mentioning as we prepare for tonight's debate. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
The time has arrived. Hesselson's annual tent sale is going on now through Sunday. 4 days of huge savings in all departments. Hunting clothing, work and hunting boots, general clothing, socks, swimming pools, hot tubs, and much, much more. If you're looking for unbelievable savings and great deals, Hesselson's annual tent sale is the place to be. But come in early for the best selection as quantities are limited. With savings like this, now is a perfect time to stock up on all of your holiday shopping and hunting, clothing, and footwear needs. But for 4 days only, it's Hesselson's huge annual tent sale will end Sunday at 3 p.m. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Marian Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290. And we are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. I do believe a 29% approval rating, even if there was an election coming up, would prove that they would elect, meaning the city, that they would elect a ham sandwich. Yes, and isn't that what Nancy Pelosi famously said about AOC when she was trying to kind of downplay AOC's impact, which is in her district, a ham sandwich, I think is what she used, could get elected if it had a D next to its name. Governor Hochul has established an upstate workforce development program, close to $200 million in funding towards job training and career support in the advanced manufacturing sector. Governor Kathy Hochul announced a new workforce development program. On-Ramp is what it's called, which stands for One Network for Regional Advanced Manufacturing Partnership. Is designed for applications and upstate work development centers. Originally announced in the 2024 budget, the program unifies industry, academia, social services, and community organizations to foster skills training and provide New Yorkers with tools to advance their manufacturing career. Also, hitting close to home, Congressman Langworthy. Congressman Langworthy has announced, well, let's put it right up on the screen, shall we? Has announced $200,000 in federal funding for Corning Community College Cybersecurity Workforce Initiative. Cybersecurity is one of the most important fields in today's economy, and I'm proud to see Corning Community College receive the resources needed to prepare students for the job. Investments like these create opportunities for our local students and ensure our region is prepared to meet the growing demand for cybersecurity experts. This grant is a win for both the college and our broader community as we continue to build a skilled workforce in the southern tier. The Corning Community College president, Dr. William Mullaney, added, this grant will empower Corning Community College to expand our capacity to deliver cutting-edge cybersecurity education, strengthening partnerships across the region, and ensure that our students are well prepared to meet the growing demand for skilled professionals in the field. We are excited to be a part of this impactful project and look forward to the opportunities it will bring to our institution, our students, and our region. We are grateful for ARC, AACC, and Representative Langworthy for this generous support, and to our faculty and staff for their continued commitment to STEM education. So there you are. Yes, we're going through a lot of breaking news. Speaking of Nick Langworthy, we brought this up last week, and he gained a lot of support for it from the viewers. And that was this fight against George Soros taking, I guess, the lion's share of Audacity radio stations. Well, the U.S. House Oversight Committee is investigating why the Federal Communications Commission fast-tracked a deal that allowed a billionaire Democratic donor to buy a wide swath of American radio stations just weeks before the presidential election. The major radio company, Audacity, Inc., fell into financial straits, but through a complex business deal, Democratic mega donor and billionaire George Soros has gained control of the station's deals of the size, or of the station, excuse me. Deals of this size require FCC approval, but in this case, the FCC expedited the approval process, which is very rare, and that's why this is raising such red flags. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr raised concerns about the deal at a congressional hearing, telling lawmakers that, quote, the FCC is not following its normal process for reviewing a transaction. And as I mentioned, Congressman Nick Langworthy has been instrumental in this fight. We have established over a number of years one way in which you can get approval from the FCC when you have an excess of 25% foreign ownership with which this transaction does. It seems to me that the FCC is poised to create, for the first time, an entirely new shortcut. House Oversight Chair Representative James Comer and Representative Nick Langworthy sent a letter to FCC Chair Jessica Rosenworcel Friday raising concerns about the deal. So we will keep you updated on that. Definitely raises huge red flags. I have no idea why Soros would do this unless it was to manipulate the thinking of Americans and the information they listen to, said author and former member of the George W. Bush administration, Mike Gonzalez. Conservative talk radio is huge, and there is no left-wing talk radio because it's just not interesting. Conservative talk radio is one of the few communications that conservatives have not a monopoly on, but a strong handle on. And he has bought stations that carry many of these conservative talk radio hosts. Critics also point out that Soros' business partners in the deal include significant funding from sources overseas. So we'll keep you updated on that. I know that's a major concern for many people. Now, the New York ballot, when we come back, before we dive into tonight's vice presidential debate and some of the things that Harris's campaign's up to and some of Trump's campaign's up to, when we come back, we're going to talk about a New York ballot measure. And some people have asked me about this, Proposition 1, and it's simply put, we read it and kind of went into the wonky details a few shows ago, and we will continue to as we near the November election. But simply put, Republicans are against it, Democrats are for it. We have some more information that should really concern you about this ballot proposition in November or early voting, October 26th. We'll tell you about that when we come back. I see we've got some comments in. Stay with us. I don't want to run too late. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Let's go, baby! Should be electric today. The crowd, the atmosphere, this is what makes it special. The student body are out of their mind. You want a piece of us? This is what we do! Here we go! Touchdown! Wow! Sensational!
Big noon kickoff, Saturdays.
And we are back, broadcasting live From the Hasselson studio, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've got comments coming in from viewers here. I know there is freedom of the press. They are protected. But what protects us from them? That's a great question. The press basically refuses to cover how many illegal criminal aliens Harris and Biden have allowed into the country. It proves how correct Trump has been all along. I know Trump talked about this last go-around, about different ways to perhaps lawfully, of course, legally go after the press when they lie about a candidate, lie about him, lie about so many stories. But you remember his presidency, how just out of hand it got with the media's biased coverage. And of course, you look at something as simple as covering up the Hunter Biden story and how good they are at doing that, or covering up Joe Biden's mental decline. So you raise a good point. Who protects us from them? A different comment from a different viewer. And this is Ken. Tish James twisted her ethics and credibility into a pretzel for the Democrats. They owe her big time. She wants Hochul's job and was asked to not run against Hochul in the last election. I would be surprised if she ran for mayor, especially with Hochul's approval rating. Very good point. Thank you very much. I don't know. She is a good Democrat. I don't know if she would primary Hochul, though with those approval ratings, kind of be surprised if she didn't take that chance. Okay, so here's about this New York ballot measure. A proposed referendum on New York's ballot aimed at protecting abortion rights could give illegal migrants the right to vote, according to a lawmaker spearheading opposition to it. Westchester County-based constitutional lawyer Bobby Ann Cox said Proposition 1, which is up on the ballot, aka the Equal Rights Amendment, is being promoted as enshrining the right to an abortion in the state constitution. But she said that since the sloppily crafted proposed referendum on the November 5th ballot also includes anti-discrimination protections for every category of New Yorker, it potentially allows for a host of serious other consequences too. The text of the proposed amendment says, quote, no person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws of this state, and would extend to all protections to everyone, regardless of race, color, ethnicity, national origin. If you recall at the time we brought this up, now I'm obviously not a lawyer like this person, but we brought it up at the time that was a serious red flag that was in there, the way that it was worded. But I'll continue. National origin, age, disability, creed, or religion, or sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy outcomes, and reproductive health care and autonomy. Cox said national origin can refer to foreigners or non-citizens and illegal immigrants, and that the laws of the state include voting. That, quote unquote, the laws of the state, as it's worded, include voting. It would put non-citizens and illegal immigrants on the same plane as citizens. It's a Trojan horse of epic proportions. It covers anybody. That includes people who come here illegally and broke our laws. This is unbelievable. She said it would even allow illegal immigrants to vote. Cox noted that New York City passed a law to allow 800,000 non-citizens with green cards to vote, but it was blocked in the courts as unconstitutional. The rulings are being appealed. In 2019, the state legislature approved a law allowing illegal immigrants the right to obtain a driver's license. The lawyer also said taxpayers would be hit with more costs to cover services for illegal immigrants if the ballot measure passes. Republican pollster John McLaughlin said support for Prop 1 traditionally craters when voters find out just how far-reaching it is, including how it would allow biological males who identify as transgender to compete in women's sports and share female locker rooms. This ballot measure is a radical wish list that will change New York forever, he said. But supporters of Prop 1 said the ballot measure does not grant illegal immigrants the right to vote and accuses opponents of scaremongering. False. This will not give them citizens' rights. Those can only be provided through the federal government, said Senator Liz Krueger from Manhattan. We have many precedents in state law that people should not face discrimination, regardless of whether they were born here or are citizens. Prop 1 also closes loopholes in the state constitution to protect New Yorkers against government discrimination, just as they have done in conservative states like Texas, Florida, and Louisiana. Anyone saying otherwise is trying to divide and distract voters, and the opposition knows it. So we're giving you both sides this morning to keep you informed, because this will be on the ballot, whether you early vote starting October 26th, or whether you vote on Election Day. What's your plan? I've heard a lot of back and forth from various viewers saying that some are going to do the early voting, like many in the Republican Party are calling for. Others are saying no. There's something about going on Election Day where they feel more comfortable. What are your thoughts? There are no wrong opinions here. All right, we're going to take... No, we got a little time here. Hey, before we talk about the vice presidential debate tonight, this is a blast from the past. Brian Williams, remember that name? Elmira native Brian Williams, the former NBC news anchor, who was relegated to hosting a late-night show on MSNBC after he acknowledged falsifying claims about reporting under duress during war. He's actually in talks to host Amazon's coverage of the presidential election. The Seattle-based e-commerce company is in advanced discussions about Williams hosting a special election night broadcast on Prime Video, according to the Wall Street Journal. Williams, who quit Comcast, owned NBC in late 2021 after anchoring the 11th hour on the left-leaning cable outlet, would anchor coverage that would include pundits and news personalities analyzing the day's events this coming November 5th, is what the Journal reports. Would you watch Brian Williams' coverage? Elmira native Brian Williams watch his coverage on election night. Amazon's coverage of the election would encompass Williams hosting the broadcast from a studio in Los Angeles beginning as early as 5 p.m. Eastern time. Wow, talk about a lot of downtime. Because when did the polls close? 9? So you're starting off with many hours of real no up-to-date information. But sources told the Journal that an agreement between Amazon and Williams could be reached as early as this week. The sources caution that the Williams deal should not be viewed as Amazon seeking to pivot into news. News of the talks between Williams and Amazon was first reported by Variety. Okay. Williams was NBC's news anchor, top anchor from 2004 until 2015, when he was suspended for falsely claiming that he had been in a helicopter hit by enemy fire during the Iraq War. A subsequent events. Why am I having trouble this morning? A subsequent investigation found that he had made other inaccurate statements about his experiences covering events, and he ultimately lost his job. He was later given the 11 p.m. hour at MSNBC, which he turned into a fast-moving, entertaining newscast summing up the day's news. So Brian Williams, Elmira native, looks to be the anchor on election night for Amazon. Okay, when we come back, we do have a lot to talk about with Walz and with Vance. Quite a few things here as well about the campaigns in general. Did you see that Malik Obama, which is Barack Obama's half-brother, he says that Barack is still running the country and warns he would have a big role to play in the Harris presidency. Malik, who was the best man at Barack's wedding, but has since parted ways with the 44th president, told the Post that his relative made everything flip in July when he swapped out Biden for Harris. Definitely, he had something to do with it. He's still running the Democratic Party, and he's still running the country behind closed doors. He's going to be extremely influential in whatever goes on should they win. Asked whether Harris and Obama colluded on the Biden ouster, Malik responded, "I'm sure that they are talking almost every day." Interesting. Okay, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
I'm Marianne Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
And we are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you again for joining us. I'm your host, Frank Akam. So tomorrow is the Vance or tomorrow. Today is the Vance-Walz debate. According to Time, it's primed to be messy. I'm not sure. See, what the media is pushing, and we're going to talk about this extensively in the next hour, but what they're pushing is this idea that Coach Walz, is nervous. But as the Trump campaign said yesterday on that press call, he's done this for 20 years. He's debated numerous times. So this idea that he's, obviously we didn't see him because why were we paying attention to that governor's race or whatever the case may be, that he was running for Congress or governor. But he has debated in the past. And they actually had on the phone call that I was on, Majority Whip Tom Emmer, who was playing Walz in the debate prep. So we're going to tell you a little bit about what was said yesterday. But they're saying Tuesday night's likely lone debate between the vice presidential nominees might seem like a Midwest off for the ages, with a junior senator from Ohio offering his antagonistic vision for a new conservatism against the aw shucks earnestness of Minnesota's governor. But in reality, the evening stands to be a high-stakes debate of the culture wars largely defining this nation's contests. It is 90 minutes. It begins tonight at 9 o'clock. I know if you're like me, getting a little old these late nights. But in a way, Vance and Walz are on a similar mission. Make the other guy unlikable. It's not elegant. It's far from high-minded, said Time, or even wonky. But it was the strategy, prepping them think it's the most lethal play at this moment when voters are just starting to tune in for the rest of the ticket. With 5 weeks until Election Day, this is not the time for niceties, but rather petty needling. Voters say they hate the negativity, the ads, the rhetoric, the innuendo, and its stronger cousin slander. But there's the one thing. It usually works. The culture wars spark fear, and fear puts people at the voting booth. Both campaigns get it, and the voters are just going to have to strap in for this final push. So it could get messy tonight, could get nasty. This is what looks to be the last debate in this election season. Hard to believe. Here we are on October 1st, Jimmy Carter's birthday, 100th birthday to former President Jimmy Carter. When you look at how soon this election is going to be here and how truncated the campaign was because of Biden and Harris, and you know the whole story, you lived through it. So to think this could be the last time we see a debate for this season and what that means. Now, historically, they say vice presidential debates don't really mean a lot. This could be a different one because Trump and Harris only debating once, Trump debating Biden, of course, once as well. But then you look at the lack of coverage, Harris not giving press conferences, doing very few interviews. So the opportunity to see her kind of over, the real her is kind of over. Everything else from here on out will be telepromptered. I doubt she'll do a press conference between now and November. I mean, it's only a month. How many interviews is she even going to do in this month and 4 or 5 days? That's the big question. And I don't think we'll see much from her, especially anything that isn't scripted. I think you'll see a lot of rallies. You may see a couple interviews from either local outlets or friendly faces like MSNBC, like she did last week, or CNN, like she did with Walz, a month ago probably by now. So tonight does have some big implications. So we're going to talk about it when we come back. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, mere moments away. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
You just to get in the seat of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Not because of how easy it is to use, or because of our expert dealers. Not even because it has implements for every job. You just have to get in the seat because breaking ground on your dream home feels pretty great.
Right now at Lindsay Equipment, get up to $1,000 off and 0% financing for 60 months on all 2023 John Deere compact tractors in stock.
The time has arrived. Hesselson's annual 10 sales going on now through Sunday. 4 days of huge savings in all departments. Hunting clothing, work and hunting boots, general clothing, socks, swimming pools, hot tubs, and much, much more. If you're looking for unbelievable savings and great deals, Hesselson's annual 10 sale is the place to be. But come in early for the best selection as quantities are limited. With savings like this, now is a perfect time to stock up on all of your holiday shopping and hunting clothing and footwear needs. But for 4 days only, it's Hesselson's huge annual 10 sale will end Sunday at 3 p.m. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're just dipping our toe in the water to start talking about tonight's big debate between Vance and Walz. Here's a comment from a viewer. So people hate negativity in the ads. I would bet anything those are the same people that are offended by just about everything they don't agree with. They also hate the truth because they can't fight the truth. Thank you very much. So yesterday I was on a press call with the Trump campaign, and I can't give away too much. There's been some stuff reported on in the media about how they were preparing. And I did take away a couple things that I think are worth noting because it included Jason Miller, the Trump campaign senior advisor. It included Monica Crowley, quickly, and it had Majority Whip of the United States House of Representatives, Tom Emmer. Now, Tom Emmer has been playing Tim Walz in debate preparation for J.D. Vance. One thing and I thought it was very important, they continued to say this, that Walz is very good at debates. You've got to keep in mind, as the media keeps reporting that he's nervous, he doesn't know if he can handle it, that's to set the bar so low. Because if you look at it, Senator Vance has, 2 years in politics? So how many debates did he really accomplish in those times? Yes, you could say that every time he goes to one of the hostile news outlets, which is every news outlet, that's somewhat like a debate, and that's true. But 2 years to Vance, 20 years to Tim Walz. So they said that JD is ready. That was one big key takeaway, that Vance is ready. He's prepared. He knows what he's going to be dealing with when it comes to Walz and the misinformation and the aw shucks, folksy kind of attitude. But if you aren't familiar with the who, what, when, where, and why, and we brought this up to you yesterday, but I think it's still worth noting, the debate will last 90 minutes, and both campaigns have agreed to the set of rules. There will be no audience in attendance, and the candidates will each take a stand behind podiums. Candidates will have 2 minutes for closing statements. Vance won a virtual coin toss on September 26th and elected to go second with his closing statement. Vance and Walz will not be allowed to have pre-written notes or props, and topics and questions will not be shared in advance with the campaigns. Unlike the presidential debates, microphones will remain on, but CBS News reserves the right to turn them off. According to CBS News, each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer each question, and the other candidate will get 2 minutes to respond. Then, each candidate gets 1 minute for further rebuttals. At the discretion of the moderator, candidates may get an additional minute each to continue a discussion. Now, that is tonight at 9 o'clock. As I said, the Trump campaign, when I spoke with them yesterday on that press call, seemed very ready, but also cautious, knowing full well that J.D. Vance will do a good job, but Walz has been doing this for 20 years. Walz is prepared for this. He's a good debater. He's not stifled by the truth. He can, and this was more their kind of words, he doesn't mind fabricating records and his story. So it's going to be a tough one for Vance, and they're aware of that. Now, CNN put together the 5 things to watch for in tonight's debate. The coach versus the ex-pundit. The Middle America roots at the heart of both Walz and Vance's well-cultivated political identities will be on display tonight as the two men vying to be a heartbeat away from the presidency introduce their biographies to the largest audience of voters they've likely had to date. Walz, a 2-term governor and former congressman, was elected to the U.S. House in 2006. but expect him to lean into his roles off the field, or off the political field, more on the high school football field and his time as a teacher. Vance, meanwhile, is a Marine veteran and the author of the best-selling memoir about his Appalachian family values. He's likely to highlight how he came around on the former president in recent years without making much mention of the past as a political commentator who was a strident Trump critic. Also, and I think this goes without saying, abortion and family issues will be coming up. They will definitely talk about the childless cat lady comment that Vance made. They'll bring up abortion. Now, they asked the question, though, CNN asked the question, which Walz do we see? Walz emerged from relative national obscurity to become Harris's running mate in August, after one of the quickest selection processes in a generation, in no small part because of his sweet and spicy commentary on cable news. His matter-of-fact insistence that Trump and Vance and their allies were weird captivated Democrats, desperate for an accessible hit on MAGA Republicans, and vaulted him to within a step of the vice presidency. Since then, though, Walz has been rather tame. The cable news appearances trailed off. He did not say much during his joint CNN interview with Harris, and his speeches haven't made any headlines. He spent some time on the defensive over his military record, but was largely faded into the background. And if you think about that, that's a very good point. He has not been doing, just like Harris, he's not doing the interviews, he's not doing the media appearances. So not a lot is known about Walz, just basically what Vance and Trump have been saying. On Tuesday night, that will change. What's less clear is to what effect. Walz could play the part Biden once did in a debate against another rising young conservative when then Vice President stymied Mitt Romney's running mate Paul Ryan. Or is there another reason Walz has been kept somewhat under wraps over the past 6 or so weeks? The answer could be clear in the first few minutes of the debate. See, that's them trying to set the bar low again. What they're trying to suggest and insinuate is that maybe he's just going to be really, really bad. So then he only has to be to a certain level where they can say, oh, he did a fantastic job. But do you see that, how they're already throwing, I don't know, he's nervous and he might not do it. Now, Walz's military record could come under attack. The story is nuanced enough that Vance is unlikely to back off. In August, he said Walz was Harris's stolen valor sidekick and called the governor's past comments disgraceful. Walz seems unlikely to want to litigate it on stage, but Vance could make him try. Yeah, I don't see Walz necessarily responding, even if Vance does say that or takes that, how have you no decency, sir, I served kind of mentality. I could see that as well. So that's the 5 takeaways from CNN. What are your thoughts on tonight? What Vance would you like to see? I think Vance is, I don't know about debating specifically, but if you just look at essentially the debates he's had with the media, I think he's effective. He has a good message and he knows how to deliver it. But this is the national stage. I mean, this is arguably one of the biggest nights of his life. So what Vance will we see, and also what Walz will we see? The CNN did put together, and we're not going to have time to get to it necessarily, but that Walz and Vance's past debates may reveal what we could see tonight. And I know hearing from Representative Emmer, he went back and watched all the old tapes and really practiced not just the style and the folksy kind of talk of Walz, but also to just see his style and to learn kind of how his patterns are. So Vance has had very good practice. Unlike Trump, who doesn't really like to practice that much, it sounds in this case that Vance has been prepared. He has been put in front of someone that seems as if he did a good job, Emmer, in portraying Walz. Now, what preparation has Walz had? Well, 20 years in elected office, but also they're now, again, I can't stress this enough, setting the bar lower and lower in hopes that he doesn't really have to have that great a performance. That's why they keep saying he's nervous. We don't know what we're going to see. So when they start downplaying it, just be prepared to know what the media coverage is going to look like tomorrow, which will be, wow, he hit it out of the park. I expect a pretty interesting debate, said a Vance advisor. Look, fundamentally, I don't think people cast a vote based on who you pick as VP, but I think it will probably get more media attention than, say, a Tim Kaine versus Mike Pence, who, let's be honest, are two pretty boring guys. Still, for as many debates, forums, and interviews these candidates have done, neither has debated as a running mate's number two. In that sense, the debate is a new test for both Walz and Vance as they defend the ticket's platform. So even CNN and others, heading into the vice presidential debate, Tim Walz is fighting nerves. Do you believe this? Or is this just the Harris campaign getting to the media and saying, hey, set the bar low. Say he's nervous. Say he's just not necessarily a great debater, something like that. So then if he has a, even a C-plus level performance, they could say the momentum's back on their side. He pulled it off when he needed to. And do you also think that the moderators will be a little more fair this time and learn the lessons of ABC, or no? Do you think it will still be time to fact check, still be time to kind of attack Vance the whole time? Because if you remember, ABC admitted that they prepared, almost like we talk about Vance doing mock debates with Emmer, they prepared and had a Trump-like character there saying things that they could fact check and practice their fact checks. They did not do that, of course, with Harris. So they admitted, and no problem to them. I mean, they're getting invited to more cocktail parties and getting more support, but admitting that they were prepared with the fact checks against Trump. Will you see a lot of fact checks tonight in the vice presidential debate? Obviously, time will tell, but it seems to be the new trend. If you look at Vance when he's on the Sunday shows, that's exactly what he goes through, is kind of the interruption. And unfortunately, it just takes away, whether it's the debate or whether it's an interview in general, it just takes away from the actual interview and hearing from the candidate, which is important. So it's distracting, and it really comes off as kind of rude, but that is the new trend. So I believe we'll probably see it tonight, unless they learned from ABC's mistakes and said, well, let's not be accused of too much bias. Tim Walz is telling people he's just as nervous about facing J.D. Vance as he was the Sunday afternoon in August when he warned Kamala Harris in his running mate interview that he was a bad debater. Do you see what they're doing here, folks? So he's nervous. He warned Harris that he's a bad debater. Now, again, hearing yesterday on that press call that I was a part of, hearing from Vance's people in the Trump campaign, they realize, they've watched his debates, they did the game prep, that he is a good debater. So this, again, the media trying to downplay or set the bar very low for Walz. So be prepared for that tonight, because now if the bar said, well, he didn't look nervous, he actually did a great job. You can hear the analysts and the commentators after the shows saying, boy, I thought he was going to be nervous, but he hit it out of the park. Maybe more nervous, according to multiple people who have spoken to him. And the pressure is even higher when the first time in modern campaign history, the vice presidential debate Tuesday is likely to be the last marquee event before Election Day, with many voters still saying they don't know enough about Harris. It could be up to Walz to help convince them to trust a vice president he barely knew himself before she picked him. I think that's okay. I would hope that you knew a little bit about Harris. But again, this is their campaign strategy. So they can say, and it's true, the polls have shown the undecided voters very much want to know more about Harris, and that there was no substance in the debate, just a lot of attack lines. And she never really went into specifics on her policy. Obviously, she never received one vote to be in the position she's in, so people have a lot of major questions. This is unlike any other election we've ever seen, so people have a lot of questions, but her campaign and her game plan has been to kind of run around the ring. So is it up to Walz tonight, even though he's nervous and a bad debater? He feels good. He feels genuinely contempt for and confusion over what he views as Vance's abandonment of their common roots, and for flipping so many of his positions to fit with Trump. The digs he takes at Vance by saying he doesn't know many Midwesterners who went to Yale are a glimpse into his anxiety, and his opponent learned to be a sharp debater there, according to people who know Walz. I don't understand that attack line. Do you get that? The Democrat Party now upset with people that went to Ivy League schools. I can't imagine saying, yeah, look, he pulled himself up by his bootstraps and went to Yale. I don't think that's an effective line. But he's a strong person, says Amy Klobuchar, remember, Minnesota senator, who's known Walz since they were each elected in Washington in 2006. He's just not a lawyer debater type. It's not like he was dreaming of debates when he was in first grade. So they asked, how's debate prep going? asking Walz when Walz was visiting Alex Soros's penthouse. As teachers, we are trained to answer the questions, and we train our students to answer the questions. That's not how this goes, he said. In long sessions that have gone late into the night and through weekends, Walz and his team have been balancing managing the Minnesota governor's headspace, watching videos of Vance, and holding mock sessions with stand-ins for the moderators, with Pete Buttigieg playing the Ohio senator. Though the transportation secretary is not going as method as Harris's Trump stand-in did in growing out a beard. The plan for Tuesday night, several people involved told CNN, will be largely skip Vance and go right at Trump, but to also squeeze the senator between his attempts to appeal to the undecided voters and the always tricky task of satisfying America's most prominent audiences, the prominent audience of one. We're going to talk about a little bit more about what's expected, but according to CNN, setting that bar low, Walz is nervous and not a good debater. Now, hearing from Trump's camp yesterday, that is not the case. That Trump's team, his campaign says that Walz is a very good debater. He's been doing it for 20 years. So don't buy that line, essentially. But we've got to take a break. Oh, wow. Look at all these waves I missed. Thank you. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
When your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere, you reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant, so fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-977-4997. That's 1-800-977-4997, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you again for joining us. We got a lot of comments from viewers. To the one viewer that called in, I appreciate it. I will look into it. I know you were looking for an answer. I didn't have time to do the research, but so thank you. Next up, didn't they say the same thing about Harris, that she was nervous right before she went on? Yes, you know, that's kind of again, setting the bar low. You don't hear Trump is nervous or Vance is nervous, right? There's a reason for that. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Should or will J.D. Vance try to attack the Minnesota support of Muslim protesters, i.e. the services for terrorist Hezbollah leader, to Walz? If so, how will it be taken by the media? Well, that's a good... The media doesn't know how to handle that specific situation. So that's a great question. Because when Van Jones famously said that the Democrat Party has a marbling of anti-Semitism in it now, the media doesn't know quite how to handle it because they want those votes, so they don't want to scare off people that find that appalling But at the same time, if you look at the coverage from the New York Times that we brought up earlier, there seems to be an agreement with those protesters by many in the media. So that's a great question. I'm not sure how the media will take it. I know the media has not been covering it because I do think they see it as causing serious damage to, in the Midwest and to places that are perhaps a little more level-headed and sees that for what it is, the anti-Semitism. So great question. Another comment. It's all theater, smoke, and mirrors. When will they really tell us how they will balance the budget or how they will lower prices? We just get lip service. Yes. Good point. Another comment. Could this be the pinnacle of the new normal when it comes to elections? Step back and look at the facts. An appointed person is running for president with an appointed vice president. Democrats aren't being very democratic. Thank you for all those comments. Tonight is the debate. What do you expect to see? Now, they're already predicting that Walz is going to try to hammer Vance on Project 2025, which, of course, we know they had nothing to do with, or quote-unquote selling his soul to Donald Trump. People involved say Walz may even try a line that originated when Harris was preparing for a vice presidential debate before Joe Biden dropped out, asking Vance what promises he made to Trump so the former president wouldn't send an angry mob after him with gallows like Mike Pence experienced on January 6th. So that will come up. He's also, and this is about Walz, CNN reporting that he's nervous and not a very good debater, but he wants to make people feel joyful and hopeful. Traditionally, running mates serve as attack dogs. Not in this case. We'll see, though. Again, on that phone call, it was kind of interesting because there is kind of two Walzes. There's the one that they're trying to portray now, the kind of folksy, aw shucks person. But then there is the stone cold politician. So which Walz will we see? What Walz is going to highlight about Harris and what he is careful not to. Well, keep in mind, he has stepped away from the limelight as well. We have Harris running and we have him running, and neither of them give press conferences. None of them really speak to the press, which does give Vance a little bit of an upper hand because he's well honed, well practiced, because every time he's on a Sunday morning show, it's pretty much hostile and it's pretty much a debate setting. Well, it's going to be interesting. Walz, according to people familiar with the internal discussions, was one of whom Jimmy McCain, the late Senator John McCain's son, first reached out to when he wanted to endorse Harris. Walz was the one put on the phone with Joe Manchin when the West Virginia senator was demanding to talk to Harris as a precondition for an endorsement. Manchin has since said he was not endorsing Harris. Well, anyway, if I was Tim, I wouldn't be the least bit intimidated by Vance. Just be who you are. Everyone is enjoying seeing you and seeing who you are. Just be that guy. That's coming from CNN. Thank you for the waves. So nervous Walz. I just don't buy into that. But enemy Veep candidates J.D. Vance and Tim Walz are prepping for the first and only debate, with both camps just praying their hopefuls don't screw it up. Now, I don't think there's really that much pressure on to screw it up. I mean, I don't think you'll see the numbers that you saw for Harris-Trump or Biden-Trump. But there's a lot of interest in tonight because it is the last major marquee event before November 5th. Yes, here it is, October 1st. Jimmy Carter celebrating 100 years, 100th birthday. So that means we have a little over a month before Election Day, and in many states, early voting has already begun. GOP had Representative Tom Emmer, who I mentioned, stand in for Walz in the mock debates, while the governor chose Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to play the role of Vance for him. Vance and Walz televised showdown will occur just over a month ahead of Election Day and is expected to be the final head-to-head politicking that viewers will see before they cast their vote for the top presidential tickets of Vice President Harris or former President Donald Trump. Walz has said he is nervous to spar with a GOP foe, but Trump's campaign heaped praise on the governor's rhetorical experience, seemingly trying to set him up for extra failure if he does poorly and soften the blow for Vance if the Minnesota poll does well. Walz is very good in debates. I want to repeat that. Tim Walz is very good in debates, really good. He's been a politician for nearly 20 years. Jason Miller told reporters yesterday on that press call. I was a part of that press call. He'll be very well prepared for tomorrow night. He's not going to be the wildly, off the folksy kind of something of a caricature, which we see at rallies, pointing to Kamala Harris, dancing on the stage. Walz is going to be buttoned up. But a bit of a mixed message. Vance told the Post last week that he doesn't have to prepare that much to face off against Walz. Vance's prep has largely been taken place in Cincinnati, Ohio, and involved his wife, Usha. It also included reviewing Walz' previous debate tactics when he was running for other offices. As for Walz, those close to him likewise seem to be trying to downplay expectations, telling the press that the governor just doesn't have the verbal game to be totally carefree going into the debate. He's a strong person. He's just not a lawyer, debater type. It's not like he was dreaming of debates when he was in first grade. Some of Walz's nerves comes from him not wanting to let Harris down and make her think she should have picked somebody else for VP. Vance is looking, it would be interesting what the debate would look like tonight if it was Governor Shapiro out of Pennsylvania and Vance. We'll see. Miller predicted Walz will be aggressive and a chameleon, but that Vance will be prepared and work around the Minnesotans' folky demeanor. Walz is preparing to go straight into Trump and largely skip over Vance, but also push the claim that the senator is tied to the Heritage Foundation's controversial Project 2025 while leaning onto his own Minnesota appeal. So what are your thoughts tonight? Will you be watching? I mean, I think that's a fair question. Some people may not be staying up to 9. It's 90 minutes, so 9 and 90 minutes after. Staying up for it, maybe looking for recap. I hope that you'll tune in tonight, tune into the debate tonight, but also tune into Frankly Speaking tomorrow morning, and we'll give you the full rundown if you weren't able to watch it, or even if you were. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. But we've got to take a break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can scan and hack your information without you even knowing. Worse yet, it's bulky and so disorganized. But not anymore, because Slim is in. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash truly protected. And now may be your last chance to get it for a low price. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from scanning your wallet and stealing your info.
Having your information stolen is a nightmare. But with Slim Mint, I know I'm protected.
With money clips, cash can easily fall out. But with the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. Then just press the button to release the lock. Slim Mint is ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to securely fit your additional cards and your extra cash. Even with everything you see here in the Slim Mint, it's still ultra-thin. Bulky wallets are uncomfortable, but the Slim Mint is so compact it fits in any size pocket. Plus, it keeps everything easy to access.
Slim Mint holds everything, from pictures to credit cards, my driver's license. Yeah, it's still so thin.
Say bye-bye to bent cards and damaged magnetic strips. Slim Mint keeps them protected. It's crush resistant and can really take a beating. Similar wallets sell for over $100. But call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs and supply chain shortages, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. You still have time to get your very own Slim Mint wallets, but you must act fast. Don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-655-8103. That's 1-800-655-8103. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-655-8103 now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thanks so much for joining us. A question from a viewer. Did Governor Walz get booed out of the stadium at his home state football game? Not quite booed out, but he did get booed. Tim Walz got booed as he was leaving the Michigan-Minnesota game. He had attended the game with Beto O'Rourke, and they were in a suite. But yes, he did get booed with people yelling, "Get out of here." So that did happen. We mentioned it quickly on the show yesterday. So Republicans underestimate Tim Walz, warns fellow Minnesotan who played the governor in debate prep. This was during that call yesterday. Tom Emmer saying, don't underestimate Tim Walz. And that's why the media is pushing the idea that he's nervous and he's not a very good debater. Marty Seifert, former Minnesota House Minority Leader and 2010 and 2014 gubernatorial candidate, has a unique perspective on Wall's skills because he stood in for the Democrat in debate prep for his unsuccessful Republican challenger Scott Jensen 2 years ago. In a phone call with the Post, he predicted Walz is going to appeal to the average voter, and Vance will lose if he sticks with his canned talking points. That might be just what the Republican plans to do, though. Vance has publicly brushed off debate prep, as the Post reported last week. We have well-developed views on public policy, so we don't have to prepare that much, he had said. But I think that was a little bit of him downplaying. He needs to talk about middle America, the mainstream, not the extreme. Vance has an opportunity if he knows how to use it. One example, Minnesota has the largest surplus in state history, and under Walz's leadership, it was spent and taxes were raised. Much of the state's $17.5 billion surplus in 2023 was used for one-time funding of new and existing programs, including child tax credits, tax rebates, and exemptions, free college tuition, and green energy. That's not where the average person is. If you had a surplus, I think you'd want moderation. Seifert thinks Walz's handling of the George Floyd unrest in the Twin Cities is another weak point Vance should exploit, as the governor has been blamed for a delayed response to the rioting, something the Hillbilly Elegy author has pointed out to before. Seifert joked he's probably the only guy in any state that has played Tim Walz, and he's not ashamed of it. To convincingly play a character, you better study and appreciate them, and I certainly tried to do my part, he said. I've studied Tim Walz for years. They underestimate him every time he runs. I saw him at a parade when he unseated a 12-year congressman. He had 100 people walking with him, and he had a bullhorn talking about how we need to get out of the Iraq war. I thought, this guy is going to win, and I watched him ever since, dispensing Republican after Republican. So do not take him lightly. Now, it's being called a heightened significance and importance to this debate, as it is not only the first face-off between Vance and Walz, but the last as well, and the last of the election season. With a second face-to-face showdown between Harris and Trump unlikely, and with a margin of error race with 5 weeks until Election Day in November, there's a lot on the line in the vice presidential debate. Now, there's a piece that we're going to get to before the show's over, hopefully, that asks, in such a crazy election year, full of surprises, what could the October surprise be? Well, I'll ask the question, do you think there will be an October surprise? I think that's a fair question. Any major knockout blow or agonizing misstep could turn what's traditionally seen as a second-tier event into an impactful showdown. Given that we're only likely to have one head-to-head matchup between the principal candidates, and this is the last meetup between the two tickets directly before the election, it heightens the importance and significance of this debate, said Ryan Williams, longtime Republican strategist. Most political pundits said that Harris bested Trump last month in their first and likely only debate, and flash polls of debate watchers agreed. So a strong showing by Vance in Tuesday's vice presidential debate could give Trump a boost. And there's a precedent from 12 years ago. After a shaky first debate by then President Barack Obama against Mitt Romney, then Vice President Joe Biden's well-regarded performance in the running mate debate against Romney, his running mate Paul Ryan, gave the Democrat ticket a big boost. So this does have, I think, major implications. I do believe more people will be watching than normal because, as many undecided voters have said, they want to understand the policies of Harris because she has not been forthcoming with specifics. So I could see a lot more people tuning into this one than is typical. And they keep talking about everybody's debate camps and how they practice. We don't need to go through that. We've spent enough time on that. But former President Trump asked Monday if he had given his running mate any advice. And he said, no, he doesn't need it. But he added that he and Vance had been speaking a little bit back and forth and that he thought the senator was in good shape. Walz is and then, as I had mentioned, the Trump campaign saying Walz is very good in debates. I want to repeat that. Tim Walz is very good in debates, really good. He's been a politician for 20 years. He'll be very well prepared for the debate. According to the latest Fox News national poll, Walz was slightly above water with a 43% favorability rating and a 40% unfavorability rating. Vance stood in negative territory, 38 to 50. All right, we got to take another short break. I see we've got a lot of comments coming in. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Not because of how easy it is to use, or because of our expert dealers. Not even because it has implements for every job. You just have to get in the seat, because breaking ground on your dream home feels pretty great.
Right now at Lindsay Equipment, get up to $1,000 off and 0% financing for 60 months on all 2023 John Deere compact tractors in stock.
Oh, better tasting is better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
You is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, we've been talking about the debate. Here's a question from a viewer. Why are Republicans not hammering the fact that Democrats keep saying Trump's a threat to democracy, yet Harris is appointed and nobody voted for her? Well, good point. Thank you. Kamala Harris says she had insomnia after Biden dropped out. Was sleep deprived the day of Walz's pick. I don't know what that says about Walz. Vice President Kamala Harris revealed Monday that she suffered from insomnia after President Biden endorsed her as his successor, but that she was sleep deprived the morning she picked her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Is that a knock at Walz? She said she made her gut decision to select Walz after being unable to sleep much the night before, waking up early that Tuesday morning in Washington and using cooking to calm her mind. From the time that the president called me and told me he wasn't running, I mean, it's just like everything was in speedy motion, and I was not sleeping so well. And that one morning, I had, I don't know, a few hours sleep, and I like to sleep. I just got up. I said I just went out and got a pork roast and started marinating it. Okay. And my family were all going to be in town, so they were very happy about the whole situation, but I just got up and started. Everyone's sleeping. I just got up and started cooking. Okay. In case you were curious what that time in her life looked like. Where do we want to go from here? What are your thoughts about tonight? What do you think? Oh, speaking of Harris, Netflix, the co-founder of Netflix donated $7 million to Harris's campaign. That same day, Netflix saw a dramatic spike in cancellations after its co-founder Reed Hastings revealed that he donated $7 million to Harris's campaign. Cancellations on the streaming platform almost tripled in the United States after Hastings made the massive donation to a super PAC supporting Harris's presidential bid. Supporters of former President Trump called on conservatives to cancel their subscription after Hastings endorsed Harris on X and revealed a large sum of his donation in July. That same month, Netflix customers reportedly canceled their subscriptions at a higher rate than any month since February of 2024. The outlet attributed the increase in cancellations to the company's latest announcement that it would phase out its lowest cost option. All right, we got a few other things here about the campaigns. Oh, did you see Trump accused Harris of staging that hurricane briefing photo? Former President Donald Trump charged Monday that a photograph of Vice President Kamala Harris reportedly being briefed on the impacts of the hurricane was staged and fake because her earbuds appear to be plugged into her cell phone. Another fake and staged photo from someone who has no clue what she is doing. You have to plug the cord into the phone for it to work. The photograph in question, posted on Harris's official vice presidential X account, shows the Democrat nominee appearing pensive and writing notes as she takes a call aboard Air Force Two. Leave it to Trump. Anyway, so it is being reported, and I think you're going to find this interesting. It's being reported that Biden is privately grumbling. He's upset that Harris isn't mentioning him enough in his speeches. And I know Saturday Night Live kind of picked on the instance of Biden saying she was along for every decision and her not wanting that to be reported. They kind of poked fun at it, but this is another example. President Biden is reportedly grumbling behind closed doors that Harris hasn't been mentioning him or Bidenomics enough in her recent campaign speeches. Well, you know, many people, even those that are in the Democrat Party, were saying Bidenomics is not a good name. It's not something you want to equate to your time in office, because when people think of the economy, they don't think good thoughts right now. Whether it's your grocery bills, your gas bill, et cetera, et cetera. Biden, who's 81, has privately complained to allies that Harris and the Democrat Party appears to have moved on from him. You hate to say it. You don't want to kick a guy when he's down, but they have moved on from him. I thought they made that pretty clear when the knives came out. He also said that his accomplishments are no longer being highlighted as Election Day nears. The president was particularly upset at one instance in which the 59-year-old vice president did invoke his name during her September 10th debate against Trump, but in an effort to distance herself from his policies. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, she said at the time, and I'm certainly not Donald Trump, and what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. Biden reportedly feels Harris should be playing up his economic policies and that he should be mentioned when she talks about the positive trajectory of the economy. It's very complex, a person familiar with Biden's thinking told the outlet, of the president's emotional state. Well, you've got to think about it. I know we've talked about it on this program numerous times, but you have a man that was loyal to the Democrat Party for 50 plus years. And all after that debate, all on a whim, you've got all the people that really never believed in him to begin with, Obama, Pelosi, and so many others, coming in, the big money donors, and saying you're not running anymore. So what was it? 14 million people voted for him, and the elites in the Democrat Party saying with a snap of a finger, you're no longer the candidate, essentially. So I can imagine why he would be hurt. I can imagine why he's in an emotional state to have your quote unquote friends stab you in the back like that. Others familiar with Biden's private comments indicated the president has been anguished over his imprints vanishing from the national stage, and he sometimes feels his legacy is dependent on Harris beating Trump in November. Okay, so I have a different opinion on this. I think if anybody wants to see Trump win, it's Biden, because then it secures what he's been saying all along, that he's the only one that could beat Trump. So I think it actually helps his legacy in the Democrat Party, if I'm being honest. But I could see why he would feel that Harris is distancing herself from him and not giving him the quote-unquote proper respect. He understands completely the general lack of mentioning Bidenomics and Joe Biden politically. He gets that. A person familiar with the dynamic told the outlet. Biden allies also indicated that the president still feels loyal to Harris and will do whatever he can to help her win, despite also feeling left behind. In defending that decision to phase references to Biden out of the Democrat nominee's campaign, a Harris official told CBS News that the campaign has to tell people who Harris is and what she would do. There wasn't a real interest in hearing about Biden's accomplishments when he was running, the Harris campaign official added. That's still the case. Now, White House spokesperson Andrew Bates told NBC News that the report was the polar opposite of the truth. How at that point could you not be upset if you're Biden? and how everything went down. Oh, we got a lot of comments coming in. Quite a few things here about Harris, a few things here about Trump as we wrap up. I can't believe the show's going so quickly this morning. Will you be watching tonight's debate, or will you wait and maybe see the recap tomorrow or the highlights? The problem with that, of course, is then you've got to believe what some of the media tell you about the performance. 90 minutes tonight. And tomorrow you can tune into this program and you can get the truth of what really happened on tomorrow's broadcast. And I would love to hear from you. You can either do it live during the debate or you can do it in the morning. It doesn't matter. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Who won, who lost, what you think the best takeaways were. I see that Trump emailed questions he wants to see asked. I don't think that they will happen. But I would love to hear your thoughts about what you expect from tonight and during the debate, what your thoughts are. All right, let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us. If I can just, there we go. Here we are.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Let's go, baby! Should be electric today. The crowd, the atmosphere, this is what makes it special. The student body are out of their mind. You want a piece of us? This is what we do! Here we go! Touchdown! Wow! Sensational.
Big noon kickoff, Saturdays.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A lot of comments from viewers. Two different viewers had very similar takes on the report that Harris had insomnia after Biden made the decision to drop out. One viewer saying, oh no, nuclear war crisis, let's cook a roast. Yeah, I thought it was that's one of those kind of awkward interviews she gives. If Harris was that stressed about becoming president, what is she going to do if she woke up in the middle of the night and had to make a major decision on a foreign matter? Great point. Two very good points from two different viewers, both on the same page. Another comment from a viewer, tonight's debate will probably be technically a draw with each side saying their candidate won. Yes, that's the typical debate. And that's why, they said that the Pence debate with Kane was boring. And I would agree, but I think that's because we forget that those are the way debates usually are. They're not the typical, Trump debates are a little bit different. Let's face it. There's kind of the wow factor when Trump's up there. But if you look at it, going back to Obama, Romney, all those debates are pretty cookie cutter. So I would agree this will probably technically be a draw with each side saying their candidate won. I will definitely be looking forward to your critique and comments tomorrow morning about the debate as well as other viewers' comments. Thank you. I look forward to what the viewers have to say, and I hope that you look forward to what I have to say. So I appreciate that. We brought up the endorsement. First of all, the New York Times writing that despicable piece about the Hezbollah leader. But yesterday I brought to you that they had endorsed Kamala Harris, which should come as no surprise. But it wasn't really as much of an endorsement to Harris as it was a critique of Biden. The New York Times editorial board endorsed Kamala Harris for president on Monday, but the real headline should have been anybody but Donald Trump. The Times editor spent 16 paragraphs talking about Trump, twice as many as discussing the candidate that they were actually backing. Considering what Harris has gotten done in her career, according to the Times, the endorsement doesn't refer to a single accomplishment. We're told only the job she has held and that she has a long record of fighting to protect women's health and reproductive freedoms. Nothing she actually's done is mentioned. Even the discussion of her foreign policy just says that the Times hopes Harris will hope that she does, then turns to bashing Trump. Contrast this to the paper's 2020 endorsement of Biden, which never mentioned Trump's name. That editorial listed laws Biden had authored, positions he had taken, and tasks he had handled as vice president. It praised his unusually rich grasp of and experience on foreign policy. Given how that worked out, what does it say that the Times can't even put Harris on the same level with a straight face? In fact, the editorial lists more accomplishments for Trump than for Harris, including securing the border during the pandemic, breaking the Washington consensus on China, and a focus on COVID vaccine development that paid off. The best the Times can say of Harris is that she has shown care, competence, and an unwavering commitment to the Constitution, but never goes on to describe to you what that competence is at. Also, since when has Harris ever stood up for the Constitution? The Supreme Court smacked her down for violating the First Amendment rights of charities and public advocacy groups. She spent her first presidential campaign running for Queen, as Times columnist David French said at the time, giving her penchant for just declaring that presidents could do whatever they wanted by executive order, a pattern this administration has continued. It describes his first term, meaning Trump, as a warning of worse things to come, admitting without saying so that it wasn't actually the worst thing ever, as Times readers were told daily at the time. Maybe instead of playing the boy who cried wolf, the Times editors should have higher standards for their own candidates. So only thing New York Times likes about Kamala Harris is she isn't Trump, and that's really the campaign that she's running. Correct? I mean, that's why she isn't giving the press conferences, doing very few interviews, mostly to local outlets, because she's just not Trump. And that's why we have a candidate so many people did not support, originally did not want to see her run for president. Now that she is, saying that she's great. Again, because it all boils down to her not being Trump. Should I take my last break here? Because there's a couple other things about... Oh, and I had mentioned this before we go to a break. What could be the October surprise in a political season of surprises? And it's a really interesting piece. It's at Newsweek, and it goes through some of the historic October surprises. You may remember there was a charge of a past drunk driving incident with George W. Bush, and there was Access Hollywood tape with Trump. But he spun that in a way that helped him. So what do you think the October surprise could be? Instead of looking at the history of what they were, do you think there will be one? Will something come out about Walz or something about Harris because they're lesser known than Trump? Or will something come out about Vance? That's always a possibility as well. So what could be the October surprise? Because here we are, October 1st, yes. A little over a month away tonight, the vice presidential debate. Also today, Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday, the first president to make it to 100 years. He's been in hospice since February of last year. Unbelievable. So Jimmy Carter celebrating 100 years today. So again, what are your thoughts on tonight's debate? Before we go to break, what do you expect to see from Vance? What do you expect to see from Walz? I'm assuming a lot of kind of folksiness from Walz, but I don't know if he'll go more stone cold political person or if it will just be kind of the happy-go-lucky look, that joy that they keep talking about. Will he go that avenue? Time will tell. But as Trump's campaign said yesterday, and said it forcefully, that Walz is a very good debater. He's been doing this 20 years. So they don't take him lightly, and rightfully so. So let's take our last break, wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Your is always is in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us. A comment from Ken. Biden is definitely upset with the way he was pushed out, and so is his closest handler, Dr. Jill. You can see it in his anger with some reporters' questions. He does seem to be getting more aggressive and angrier at these reporters, doesn't he? I would agree with that. I still think he threw out Harris's endorsement to slap at the Democrats for his ouster. I think there's a point to be had there. I think there was a lot of people, and it was reported at the time, anonymous sources, of course, saying that Obama wanted, who's it, Mark Kelly? So maybe in his last grasp at some type of power, Biden's saying, nope, I'm gonna endorse the candidate that you don't want, and you don't have any choice but to go along with it, just to show his last power. Now, speaking of Biden, with this hurricane, the Post editorial board is asking the question, who's running the White House? As communities across the Southeast reel from the hurricane, America faces an unsettling question. Who exactly is in charge at the White House? At least 100 people are confirmed dead across the Southeast, a number likely to rise as some 600 remain missing. Some 2 million homes and businesses still have no power as of Monday. Florida was able to give evacuation notices in advance, but towns in Appalachia were completely blindsided by flooding and landsliding that decimated whole communities and washed out roads, leaving residents stranded and cut off from emergency crews. Who's making the decisions back in Washington? Who can Americans look to for leadership after a record-breaking natural disaster? Certainly not President Biden, the Post editorial board argues. He gave lethargic, scripted remarks Monday, during which, again, he claimed to have a cold and then snapped at a reporter who asked why he was holed up in his vacation home in Delaware and not in Washington during the worst of the storm. Biden barked, it's called a telephone. So to Ken's point here, and of course, his mental decline plainly continues, even if he's rarely ever in the public eye. He welcomed world leaders to Washington while in Midtown Manhattan last week. Thursday, he called Kamala Harris his boss and GOP vice presidential candidate Senator J.D. Vance, Secretary Vance of Ohio. Asked Sunday about Israel's strikes in Yemen, he told reporters that he's a strong supporter of the collective bargaining effort to avert a longshoreman strike of East Coast ports. Biden is not all there. So who is calling the shots? His chief of staff or a larger cabal of White House aides? First Lady Jill Biden, who on Friday led Joe's first cabinet meeting in 11 months. Is she in charge? VP Kamala Harris, who should take over as president if Biden is incapacitated, has instead put her efforts into distancing herself from the Biden-Harris administration. Lest voters recall that she's not much of a change candidate after all. Yes, she took a break from campaigning Monday to return to Washington, made a show of being briefed by FEMA, and even delivered some empty remarks. But it comes off as it wrote, just like the photo her campaign post of her posing deep in thought on Air Force 2, albeit with headphones that looked unplugged and taking notes on a blank sheet of paper. Don't look for Harris to step up and take charge now. She doesn't want real responsibility, where's she at, or accountability. It's Biden's assigned role to take the blame for any disaster relief failures. Too bad the White House can't offer any such thing till at least January 20th. We are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll be covering everything from tonight's vice presidential debate. It's a big one. It's an important one, so I hope that everybody can tune in to the debate itself, but more importantly, tune in to Frankly Speaking tomorrow morning, starting at 6, and every weekday morning starting at 6, right here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, have a great day, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.